The story begins by showing a lawyer named Mason looking at a photo of his past. It is known that Mason used to be a Special Forces officer who has long retired after failing his last mission. At the time, Mason was tasked with taking out the president of Paldonia, who was considered cruel to his own people. However, on the way there, Mason's helicopter and his troops were attacked first by the president of Paldonia. In the incident, several of Mason's colleagues died, while Mason, who survived, managed to return to his country. Since then, Mason has decided to retire from the military and become a lawyer to support his family. On that day, while taking his daughter to school, his little daughter told him that at school, there was one of her friends who always bullied her. However, Mason instead advised her to fight back and beat the bully's face with anything if necessary.
Hit him in the Adam's apple. All boys have him. Go for 3 count, and don't forget your book bag.
After dropping off his daughter, Mason rushed to his office to do his job as a lawyer. Not long after, he was visited by a man named Sebastian, who turned out to be Mason's former superior in the military. Sebastian's arrival was to offer Mason a mission, to escort a journalist who would interview the president of Paldonia. Hearing this, Mason refused, considering that he had retired from the military and did not want to return to the military world like before, especially since the mission was related to the president of Paldonia, who had caused him many difficulties. However, because Sebastian continued to persuade and offered a large fee, Mason finally considered accepting the offer and said he would give news.
It's a one-off. Just help me out, huh?
Shortly after that, Mason was called by his daughter's teacher. Apparently, his daughter had smashed the bully's face with a rock, so the child had to be taken to hospital with severe injuries. Mason's wife looked very confused because they had to cover the hospital fees and pay a fine to the school. The wife was also confused about where to find the money because Mason had not given her any money for several months. Mason explained the mission offered by Sebastian and asked his wife for permission to accept it.
What job is this?
Private security. Easy stuff.
Although his wife did not allow it at first, she finally allowed it due to the situation's urgency and the need for money. Mason immediately met Sebastian in his office the next day to say he agreed to accept the mission. Without waiting long, Sebastian told Mason to meet the journalist, who was now in his office.
Who's a journalist?
Mason immediately met the journalist in question and discovered that the journalist was named Claire. Mason then introduced himself and explained that he was the person assigned by Sebastian to escort Claire during the interview. After talking for a while, they finally leave for Paldonia to meet the president. Once there, Claire and Mason were warmly welcomed by the president, who turned out to be named Venegas.
President Venegas, so nice to meet you.
However, Mason was very wary of Venegas and worried that Venegas would attack them.
Not in Kansas anymore, huh?
Vámonos!
Mason suddenly realized the danger as they were on their way to Venegas Palace.
So many wonderful things about my country. I can't wait for you to share them with the world. Huh?
Nice.
Mason moved quickly and managed to eliminate everyone who attacked them. Afterward, Mason, suspicious of Venegas, accused him of being the attack's mastermind. However, Venegas denied this and said that these people were not his men. In fact, Venegas claimed that they looked like they wanted to finish him off too. Venegas explains that he has been getting similar attacks for the past few months, and he wants to be interviewed by Claire to spread the word to the international media. Hearing that explanation, Mason still didn't fully believe it. He decides to leave immediately with Claire. On the way, Mason contacted Sebastian and asked for a helicopter to pick them up, as they had just been attacked by a group of unknown people. Sebastian immediately asked Mason to send their location and promised the helicopter would arrive in 30 minutes.
Y'all heading straight for it.
Okay. Sit tight, we're getting picked up in a few minutes.
30 minutes later, a helicopter was seen landing. They thought that it was a pickup heli sent by Sebastian. However, it turned out to be the helicopter of the enemy group that was still chasing them. Those who just realized it immediately ran from there. Finally, Mason tried to counterattack by aiming at the heli. After the helicopter was destroyed, it turned out that there were still 2 enemies left. They immediately attacked Mason and Claire. When Mason and Claire have given up on ever escaping, Venegas suddenly saves them. Mason, who saw the incident, now believes those people were not Venegas men. They unite to get out of the situation. Here, Venegas invites Mason and Claire to rest in a village where Venegas was born, which is not far away. Then, the scene moves to a mercenary named John, who is being contacted by a mysterious person. In the conversation, the mysterious caller is not mentioned. But clearly, the caller asked John to hunt down Venegas along with Mason and Claire. Back to Venegas has just arrived in his home village with Mason and Claire. Venegas is welcomed by all the villagers and receives appreciation from the village chief, who has been Venegas's best friend since childhood. Afterward, Mason, Venegas, and Claire decide to clean up after themselves. A few hours later, Claire finally interviewed Venegas with makeshift equipment and was watched by the villagers. During the interview, Claire asked why Venegas was notorious for being cruel to his people and said it was all known internationally. However, Venegas replied that it was all a lie, as he was not like that. This can be proven by the villagers' response, who seem to love Venegas and do not hate him. Venegas also explained that this country is rich in a rare material called lantanite, which is highly desired by several major countries worldwide. That is one of the reasons why the Venegas are always reported to be cruel. They want Paldonia to be destroyed. Then, they can freely take the lantanite material. However, as president, Venegas will not let that happen and will do his best to protect the country. Upon hearing that, all the villagers immediately cheered Venegas on and supported him in protecting his country from other countries that wanted to take it over. In fact, it seems that even Mason began to fully trust Venegas after hearing what Venegas told him in the interview. The night they are still staying in the village, Claire, who shares a room with Mason, invites Mason to have a relationship. However, Mason, who was strong in faith, immediately rejected her, especially because he remembered his wife and daughter waiting for him at home.
Are you enjoying this?
I'm just doing my job. I can't.
Good night, Mr. Petit.
The next day, Mason men asked Venegas who the person who had always sent troops to attack Venegas was. However, Venegas replied that Mason should ask the person who had given Mason the mission.
Out of all places, you were sent here.
Mason immediately contacted Sebastian because Sebastian was the one who had given him the mission to come there. When connected, Sebastian explained that he deliberately sent Mason to escort Claire because he already knew that many attacks would happen. Mason, who heard that, then continued to ask about who were the people who attacked him when he first came there. Sebastian again explained that the attack was organized by the African government, which wanted to seize the country of Paldonia by eliminating Venegas. In fact, the African government has also worked with Venegas' nephew, who is now the vice president, to eliminate Venegas. After hearing all that, Mason finally understands that Venegas is innocent and that he also intends to protect him. Not long after, the village was suddenly visited by a group of mercenaries led by John. It turns out that John was paid by the African government to hunt down Venegas.
¿Dónde está el presidente Venegas?
Ruthlessly, he immediately took the village head hostage to tell him where Venegas was. Meanwhile, Venegas, who saw the incident, immediately surrendered because he did not want the village head and all the residents there to become victims.
You're looking for Venegas? Here is Venegas!
However, when Venegas was about to be taken, Mason and Claire suddenly took Venegas away, so a chase ensued. But in the incident, Claire had to be caught while Mason continued to run away with Venegas away from the pursuit of John's troops.
I call you Claire.
After feeling safe enough, Venegas told Mason about an incident in the past, where a helicopter of American troops was shot down by a group of African mercenaries in the region. Hearing this, Mason immediately realized that the American troops who were shot down at that time were his own troops. Even now, Mason has discovered that African mercenaries attacked him, not Venegas men. Later, Venegas took Mason to meet a man named Martinez. Venegas told Martinez everything that was going on and asked for his help as he planned to make an exchange with Claire, who had been captured by John. Martinez, who has been Venegas' close friend since childhood, is happy to help Venegas. When the exchange is about to occur, John and his troops arrive with Claire. However, when John asks Mason about Venegas' whereabouts, Venegas suddenly appears with Martinez and the villagers, who are already preparing to create chaos. As a result, Venegas and Mason manage to free Claire. Venegas then takes them to the State Palace. At the State Palace, Venegas plans to hold a live broadcast to explain all the true events to the world. Meanwhile, Venegas' nephew, the vice president, is relaxing at the State Palace, thinking Venegas has dotted. However, he was surprised when Venegas appeared with Mason, who pointed a gun at him.
It's okay.
At the same time, the traitorous army commander arrived and immediately attacked Venegas, leading to a shootout. In the end, the army commander was eliminated, as well as Venegas' nephew, who was shot dead. Shortly after that, the soldiers came and immediately pointed their guns at Venegas because they thought that Venegas had killed their nephew and army commander. However, Venegas explained everything, making the soldiers believe him. Shortly after that, John and his troops suddenly appeared, so the shootout happened again. In the middle of the battle, John cornered Mason, but fortunately, Claire came and immediately helped him.
You killed my friends!
After that, Mason fought bravely. The action was broadcast live to the world. Soon after, Sebastian and his troops arrived on time, and they managed to eliminate all of John's troops.
Chick, dig it!
A few days later, all national TV channels in various countries finally broadcast the truth about the country of Paldonia. Now, the whole world knew that Venegas, the president, was a good man and was only slandered by greedy people who wanted power over the country. Even Mason's wife, who saw her husband on television, became very proud that Mason had saved the country of Paldonia. Long story short, Mason arrived at his home and was greeted with warm hugs from his daughter and wife.
In one piece.
Shortly after that, Mason received a message from Sebastian, who had transferred Mason's reward for his mission this time, which was $5 million. Knowing this, of course, Mason was very happy because with that money, he and his family would not lack money anymore.